Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of the Breaking Bad Show. I'm Chad Bruckner. Ryan Chartrain will be here with us in a minute, but we wanted to welcome you back to another episode. We are just loving this show, loving this community. Ryan and I talk about you all daily and the interactions we have, and it is pretty freaking amazing. So let's keep it up. Today's episode, we're going to have Chief Eliot Moya of the Eliot, Maine Police Department. Chief Moya gets really into mental health and wellness, and he tells you his story, how he got into it. And he's vulnerable, and he's open, and he's honest. And this is the humility that we need in this world if we're going to make it a better place, but certainly in the law enforcement profession. This world's going to change. We need more people like that. So Ryan and I just want to thank you so much for being part of this community. We're here for you, and we're going to keep going every Tuesday. And remember, we might wear badges on our chest, be a great on the range, and do 100 push-ups in 2 minutes, but we're still human beings. And processing traumatic incidents, dealing with trauma, it's just not normal. So it's good that we're talking about it and creating cultures and environments that we can continue to be open and honest. A lot more work to do. But Chief Moya is going to take us on a road, his personal journey of mental health and wellness, and boy, does he inspire. So I'm really excited to have him on and have you listen to him. And I hope you get as much out of it as Ryan and I did. Trying to get some exercise here and enjoy it, because self-care is so important. Have a growth mindset and go chase happiness. This is the Breaking Bad Show. Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome back to another episode of Breaking Bad. I'm here with Ryan and our special guest, Chief Eliot Moya from the Eliot P.D. That's in Maine Police Department. Chief Moya, how you doing, sir?
Doing great. How are you guys?
Doing awesome.
Awesome. Great to have you on, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief, we know you're a Mets fan, so I see your Citi Field in the background. We're a little Philly swag for you.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Although I think the Mets might be a lot better this year than the Phillies.
Yeah, they paid a lot of money for it.
Yeah, they did.
Mets and Red Sox history.
That's right. That's right. I'm still living off that World Series.
That's awesome. Chief, so you've been you got appointed chief in 2016, is that correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. And how long you been with Eliot PD?
I think we're coming up on 15 years total.
Wow.
Started there, went to the academy there. I did some, reserve stuff in Western Massachusetts. But yeah, all my full-time experience is right there in Eliot. I shouldn't say that. I left Eliot for a very brief stint and came back, but we can get into that.
Gotcha. That's great. Yeah, I would love to hear kind of more about your journey. We know how much mental health advocacy is and leadership and how important that is for you. And Ryan and I were doing our show prep and really just got some meaty questions for you, because I first heard your name from Ernie Stevens, and Ernie and I built this great relationship in the last year since I left law enforcement. And your name has come up even months ago, when I first started talking about this and what I wanted. He's like, "Oh, did you connect with Chief Moya yet?" I'm like, "No." He's like, "Oh, you got to do it, bro." I'm like, "All right." So I sent you that message, I don't know, maybe a few weeks ago, and just had a great conversation with you. And where did your passion or interest for law enforcement come from? Like, did you come from a law enforcement background or have family?
No. Not really. I guess a little bit of a military background. Grew up, I really wasn't allowed to play with guns or anything like that. It wasn't, anything like that. So I grew up in New York for a small portion of my life. And I always liked the look of the NYPD cruisers back in the day, but really, there wasn't anything that called me except for, I think, during high school when I was trying to figure out, all right, what direction am I going to go here? Is it going to be the military, police? I kind of had a passion for that, but I don't know really where it comes from. I'm certainly not handed down from family or anything like that, but here we are.
When I was talking earlier about mental health, and Ernie was telling me about all the awesome things you're doing there. And I know a lot of people don't know about it, because I've been having conversations since we booked the show with you with other leaders that I know in my sphere of influence out here in the Philly area. One, asking them about mental health, deploying units and social work, tying everything in together. And it's a mind-boggling concept, at least out in this area. I mean, we're talking about it, but the level of what you're doing, and I'd love to have you tell our viewers, what exactly is your mental health policies, or what approach are you taking inside the police department?
Yeah. So I guess to step back a little bit, Ernie has been absolutely fantastic. I mean, you talk about, a true champion for mental health policing. And it kind of goes into, the documentary, which was really inspiring to me. I mean, it was something that I watched that thing and it spoke to me. CIT, mental health, this was not something that, coming up, I was into at all. I mean, really, I think I was offered to go to the training and I was like, I'm all set. Not my thing. I really just wanted to be a detective. That was the ultimate goal. To me, that's the top position in law enforcement. You can put the pieces of a puzzle together. But then the pandemic hit, right? And everything kind of started changing. And this wasn't, for my department, this wasn't my idea. One of the guys came to me and said, hey, everything's kind of slow. People aren't, really calling the police anymore. Nobody's in school. Everything was, remote, school through Zoom, people working from home. So, somebody was asking, well, how are you connecting with people, right? How do we know that the students who are normally in front of their teachers, right? They're, mandated reporters, these people that are kind of their daily guardians, just keeping an eye on their well-being, I guess, that was gone. So I didn't have a good answer for that. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know, what we could be doing. And one of the guys came and said, half of this department, if not more, is CIT trained. Why don't we just start putting a focus into that and see where it goes? And, I didn't initially, I was like, okay, he gave me some paperwork. It was on my desk. I slid it off to the side for a while, but I didn't just get rid of it. And, he came back and talked to me. And then my sergeant, I got a fantastic sergeant. He said, hey, watch this documentary, which I didn't do right off, but I had nothing going on a Saturday and turned on HBO and it hit me. I was like, wow, that was awesome. And so then all of a sudden I started having the conversations and I told the guys, all right, you got my attention. This makes sense. When I took over, I did the same thing any, chief would do. I had no intention of becoming a chief, didn't know what I was doing, probably still don't, but learning every day. But I did what, I changed my, the core values, right? I updated our mission statement. And that was still, even before the mental health thing, I have this feeling where we're human, right? And we have a lot of authority. And so we need to treat people, with respect, kindness, fairness, empathy. And I can go through all my core values, but those were very real. They are very real to me. And empathy was a big one. And that was kind of as I was learning more about emotional intelligence, kind of, starting to take that internal look, the self-reflecting and see, okay, how can I be better? What can I do to improve? And that was the kind of the big thing. So I wanted the department to be this, have this response that was just, as they say, right? You make an arrest and everybody says, thank you, right? That's the goal. You've treated them, with kindness. That could be the person that ultimately down the road helps you on the side of the road, so you want to be decent to everybody. And then once I started kind of getting into the CIT thing and the mental health thing, it was like that missing puzzle piece. And I was like, this makes total sense. Now, I don't know what I'm doing or how I'm going to go about doing it, but we're going to give this thing a shot. And that was the start of the journey. So really, from there, it was reaching out to, starting those partnerships, right? So reaching out to NAMI, starting to collect data and just asking, how do I do this? It was somewhere around there after I watched the documentary, just like we all do, is reach out on social media, LinkedIn or something like that and say, hey, can I pick your brain? And, amazing as Ernie is, I mean, he responded and said, ultimately we went back and forth and I got a lot of good information, a lot of good mentorship, which was something certainly I was looking for. One of the things in Maine, unfortunately, wasn't not many departments, doing it, which now just doesn't make sense. And now it's also, the good thing is it's starting to change. So that was kind of the beginning.
So what are you doing now? Like let's say I live in Eliot, call 911. I'm in having a manic episode, or I'm in a crisis. They're going to dispatch EMS and police. So what is Eliot doing now, to handle those calls typically?
Yeah. So we've partnered, not only with NAMI, but now with our more localized mobile crisis response. And we try to get them, to come in, work with us, ride along with us. And we were starting off really great with that, but schedules get in the way, things get kind of difficult. But we kind of set up a framework where we'll typically have, most of the guys are CIT trained, so they're getting that initial response, with compassion. They're getting everything we can do to basically triage it. From there, we'll call mobile crisis. If they're not with us, they'll come out to the scene. Right now, the good thing again is, you can pick up the phone, you can do a Zoom, and we can get that help in so many other ways. So we're starting to do that. A lot of times we can, kind of take care of it on scene. But mobile crisis, that partnership has been, truly fantastic.
That's terrific. I've been following Rochester PD for that new mental health resiliency unit they started. And
yeah.
I love the approach that law enforcement has really taken, because most of the people we deal with, I feel like, that are not victims of a crime, a burglary or an assault, or, a lot of the mere encounters or the routine kind of, you're in the store and something happens, or somebody flags you down or waves you. It's because there's usually somebody in some sort of crisis or some sort of mental health issue or substance abuse issue, which people that are also have diagnoses also can struggle with substance abuse, which even makes it more confusing. So to see what you guys are doing and approach, is there a 12-month or an 18-month or a 3-year goal you wish to, or you're working on as far as doing more, introducing it more in the community?
Yeah, definitely. In fact, I just wrapped up my CIT coordinator training today, which was great because, this is, we don't want to rush this, right? And so we're taking these small incremental steps, and it feels like daily we're learning something new, making a new connection. As I said before, we have now, as this is starting to become the way, we are now starting a regional, connecting regionally, and we have an outreach worker, again, through another partner in the area. And that person's going to be available to us, at least 40 hours a week. And again, just another community resource, which will help. Think about this too. Right now I have 7 officers. So we're trying to do this in a really small department. So that in itself is a challenge. And what we were doing is basically going out there, doing the best we can. And like I said before, although we'll triage the call at that point or mobile crisis, the thing we're also doing now is following up, right? So why wait until the crisis comes? So now we're just like, and some people want to talk to us, some people don't. But I will tell you, it's overwhelmingly positive. We'll go back and just check on people that we've worked with. How you doing today? And I'll tell you, it's been amazing. We, not to get into stats or whatever, but it was truly amazing how many of our reports have this mental health component. It was mind blowing. It's all relative, right? Again, we're smaller call volume, less arrests, things like that. And as we kind of move towards this, the numbers are dropping, especially for arrests, because, what happens, right? You kind of go in the circle, arrest the same people for nonsense that really has nothing to do with, a crime. It's more, the mental health component. So
what's the reception been with other executives in your area? With this approach and what's the reception been?
Positive. It's been great. We have people asking questions, people that are calling, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing? Again, even for us to partner with, our 2 neighboring communities, it's huge. That's huge. And small departments, tight budgets, that regional approach, I think, is, super effective. We have, I say that we have yet to actually kick this off with this one outreach worker, but it's going to be, hands down, it's going to be probably one of the best things we've done. And that doesn't take away the response that we're already doing, right? So this is just in addition. Mobile crisis will still be there. All of that will kind of be the same, but this is another layer that I'm hoping will make it, even that much more effective.
I'm blown away. You said 7 officers, and I'm thinking about the training that you're hosting. Is that this Thursday, the wellness training and the CIT type training? You're flying Scott Medlin up, the awesome dude, Scott Medlin. I think he's in North Carolina. And I'm thinking, like you said, 7 officers. He's investing this time, investing this money, the budget for 7 officers. I mean, it just speaks, volumes about how much you care about bringing the very best to your PD, regardless of personnel size.
Yeah, absolutely. We could probably get into this on the leadership side of things, but I was probably pretty close to hanging it up, and just kind of being like, you know what, I don't see a lot of politics, a lot of, all that stuff, and I am just not. That's not my thing, And I needed to find. Well, I didn't need to find it. I wasn't looking. This came to me, right? This just kind of one officer decided to not stay quiet and say, "Hey, chief, let's do this." And again, I didn't fall. I didn't automatically go for it, but I'm glad he did, and I'm glad that I listened to him, because this has been like that missing piece for me. Like, I feel like, hey, this is working. This is like, policing is awesome right now.
Yeah. Well, you said you're going to hang it up. Like, if you don't mind walking us through, because it's interesting to me. You said earlier you really weren't trying to be a chief, but from my opinion, sometimes the best leaders are the ones that don't want to do the job, but they recognize a need for themselves to do it. And then you said you almost hung it up. So, like, take us through that mindset of, were you just not feeling fulfilled, or the duties that you wanted to do wasn't able to be done there at that time?
Yeah, I kind of felt like I was, I had that feeling like, what more can I do here? Right. Again, and then I get into the politics part of it a little bit, and it's like, I'm not getting the budgets to get more officers to start a mental health unit, to do, what's all that, you get a new officer in an interview, what do they want? Maybe canine, right? They want to be a detective. I've got an open detective position. I don't have enough guys, to fill it, because we need to cover the road. We're a 24/7 department, and one person working in the middle of the night, so that can be scary, so agencies have to definitely, work closely together. And I just, for me, I was like, I don't know, I feel like everything's up against me. I might've taken this as far as I can go. I was at that point, I'm like, I'm 5 years a chief. I can be proud of what I've done. I've improved the department, no question. And so I was applying for jobs in other areas, not in law enforcement. And I just felt like, I'm probably done. I don't know if I'm going to be effective. I had to take that, that deep look again, as they say, and then this all came, and I just, it feels right. It feels like, I've been to a training before where they say, a chief, their effectiveness is maybe 5 to 7 years. And I'm like, whoa, well, I'm at 6. I'm like, I'm probably over my time. I got to get, I better get out of here before I get, stale or something like that. But then this came, and this felt like a challenge that was worth giving a shot and putting the effort into. And all the officers, they're committed, they're right into it. So this has kind of given me a new energy, I guess.
That's terrific. And I think it's great that you share that, because, and Ryan and I have talked about this before, sometimes we're our own worst critics. And when you're on the job and maybe you're not feeling fulfilled, or you're not hitting your ceiling that you think you set for yourself, and you hit those roadblocks that come for us all throughout our careers at different times. And you see you look around, you see somebody else having a lot of success or loving what they do, and you're thinking like, why am I not like that person, or what's going on with me? And it's just the critical thinker in us. But to even hear you, a chief of police who's done had a lot of success, still questioning those things, I think that goes to the growth mindset. And I hope that Ryan and I are trying to push out there to everybody that it's okay to not know the answer to a lot of questions, but research, explore, develop that growth mindset.
Yeah. And, it's the amazing thing about working on our mental health response, improving it, is that we naturally morphed into officer wellness. It just that was like, I don't know if that should have come first. I don't know if that, but it's here, and we're focused on it. And it was at that moment that, for me, when we were like, okay, let's start kind of taking a look inside, man, when I did, I needed it, and I realized, it's not really this department that's so bad. It's not the schedule. I mean, I have an amazing schedule. I have an amazing team. I was knotted up in my head, and then, I wanted to be a model, for the guys. Right. So I you know what, let me try therapy. Let me go talk to somebody, and the best thing I ever did. It was a coach and a mentor that I had never had. It was a different perspective that wasn't, maybe my wife, right, who has always given me amazing advice, right? But it was just, I couldn't get out of my own way in what direction I wanted to go if police work was still right for me. And man, once I started talking and just kind of, like I said, get that third person perspective, I was like, wait a minute, this ain't so bad. And I still got more to do here. And I shared that with all the guys, doing my part to kind of break that stigma, right? I'm like, hey guys, you know what? I was in therapy for an hour and it was amazing. And I didn't tell them everything, right? But, it was, I feel like I have to model it, right? I want to be authentic. I want to be real. So I feel a responsibility to share, first of all, I'm going to do it. I'm going to talk about it. I'm not telling you to, but man, look what it's done to me or for me,
But that's what leaders do. And that is an amazing thing because I almost got choked up while you're talking because when I went through my low point in 2019 and I always have a big smile on my face, the way I just walk around. I posted about this yesterday and, but really I was struggling inside. And I even made a couple attempts to speak to my command about it, said, I'm really struggling. I'm really hurting. And it was just totally disregarded. And I'm not mad and upset about that. I think, certain people just aren't equipped or don't have the background to handle those really tough conversations. Strengths are in other areas. And we're all like that. So I'm not upset or begrudge them, but it speaks to the issue of why the stigma exists. Have a chief that says, hey, I'm in therapy. I'm having a bad day or I'm having a great day. Here's the things I learned. If I go through that as somebody in your police department, I'm going to say, chief's doing it. Why can't I do it? Why shouldn't I do it? Why not? I just think that is huge. That level of vulnerability and leadership, that is really what transcends, in my opinion, a phenomenal leader. So I'm giving you 2 claps for that. I appreciate that.
Thanks, man. It wasn't, that's it. And it's tough, right? Because you don't know, the guys could turn around and be like, oh, that guy's, he doesn't have it together, and, but I think they all knew me well enough, and it was, there was that trust there. And just to talk to him and say, man, that was great. One of the guys that said, hey, maybe you think I should give it a try? Why not? If you're even asking that question, give it a shot. What's it going to hurt? So yeah, it was awesome.
That is really amazing. It's funny. Last thing for me, and I'll turn over to Ryan, but when I was talking to Ernie, I don't know, maybe last week, we're talking about you came up and he mentioned something that, do you know his guys love him? He said to me, his guys love him. I said, love him. Tell me about that. And because I love that personally, like when you love something or somebody that you will do whatever they ask you to do because you love them and they love you. And that's any relationship. And he just his guys love him. He's open. He's honest. He cares about them. He's sincere. He's genuine. He's authentic. They love him. And I just think that is amazing because most people I would say work for a boss that can't say I love them. I like them or I respect them, but not I love them. I just thought that was cool. And I wanted to give you a lot of credit for that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. The moment that I struggled once is we're friends, the guys, we're friends. And, sometimes people will say, well, you know what, you should separate that, you can't be friends with, and that's just not my style. And so I was like, well, I'm going to run my department the way that I think is, the proper way to do it. And, yeah. And it's been great. I have a good crew. We just added somebody else recently who, I knew from the past who, is really into fitness and wellness. So he's just kind of like, it's all falling together, kind of at a perfect time. So it's really great. I mean, I've got a good team, and for them to say they love me, I mean, it's mutual.
Yeah, that's great. One more thing, Ryan, sorry, I'm going to step on your toes, but he just made me think of Jeff. We had Jeff Scheffelbein. He's a business executive, very successful, large company. He was on our episode that posted today. And you said something to me that is something he said, that in leadership, you can be close with your people and also be in an influential role, an authoritative role. Like you can have both. You can love your people. And this whole mantra that, oh, you're the chief or you're an executive, don't get too close. And that is, to me, that's fear. That's fear of you don't know how to cultivate relationships properly, or do you have some other agenda or motive that you're not willing to make that effort? Because you can certainly
and any parents love their kids, right? But they're still parents. They still have to discipline, hold them accountable, set a good example, model good behavior, but they can love them and kiss them and lay in bed with them at night, and they can yell at them at the next day. It's all rooted out of love. So I appreciate you saying that, because Jeff said that today, and now you're going to say coming up next week. So that's awesome.
Yeah. It's been good. It's been really good, so far. And, it's, there's ups and downs, right? But, all in all, it's a good, solid team. And, I've got no complaints. One of the things that I was watching Andy Harvey on I think it might have been the first podcast you did, right? But that, his book, if I was together enough and had my thoughts, I would have said, written a similar thing. And what really stuck with me was I'm going to mess it up, but it's culture, right? Culture over the policy.
Culture trumps policy.
And,
yes.
Yeah. And that's what I think. I mean, policy will fall into place if you've got the right culture, and that was just, I read that and I was like, oh, this is amazing.
That I put that, I have a wellness program I teach for first responders, and I put a whole slide in there for Chief Harvey. And then he said that because, and I taught this a month ago to police department, and we had this whole conversation about, well, policy is what dictates everything. I said, no, that is the construct we've been taught. I'm not saying policy is not important. It's extremely important. That's what you read when you get fired or hired. And that's what you read if you get fired, and you really never read it any other time. But you can't disregard culture for that. And I just love that you said that, Chief Harvey. It's funny. I read Ernie's book, and I know you're rolling that out of your PD. And he mentions Chief Harvey's book, Excellence in Policing, in that. So it's just cool to hear all these people say it. It must be true. So go buy Chief Harvey's book.
Yeah. It's a cool time, I think, because we've got a lot of law enforcement that are telling their stories, right? And it must be easier to put a book out. And I'm reading a lot of these things, and they're all amazing. Amazing stories that we can really learn from, and kind of move away from those rules that have been there forever, and we feel we need to follow. Like, hey, you can't actually have a relationship with your team, and give me a break, And so it's nice. It's a good time that way, I think.
Chief, you had so much great stuff there. And the one word really towards the end that kept popping into my head was courage. And it takes courage to lead like you are. We see a lot. We put that uniform on, we put that cloak on of the police officer, and we start it from our rookie year, and we grow into that, so that by the time we reach leadership, we've become that. And it takes courage to break out of that mold, and to be so transparent and authentic with your men, and be able to admit that type of thing. And, one thing you mentioned it, I've seen you write it, and I heard you mention it, and Chief Harvey mentioned it too. And that's, I'm still learning. I'm always learning, not I'm chief, so I know everything. So you do this. You on the courage that you have to stand up and do the things that you talked about, and you've exemplified with your police department. So as I shift gears a little bit towards the leadership side, it's kind of a two-part question, and I think I already know the answer to the first, but I'm going to throw it out there to set up the second question. And that's, do you believe leadership is learned, or is it a natural trait?
I used to say it was natural. Since being a chief, I think that people can learn. I guess it depends who you're learning from, right? Because we see those leaders that we've kind of talked about. That's kind of my way. If people kind of move up in those kind of command structures, then it's going to be that way. So I think some people just have it, definitely. But I think it's something you can learn. So I don't know if that was a cop out or not, but
no, not at all. And the one thing that I really think is going to contribute to, kind of that shift in police leadership is the ability to connect in the way that we are more and more now. Like Chief Harvey has his podcast. More chiefs that are doing innovative things like Chief Harvey and like yourself are able to communicate those to more of a national level, whereas just trying to do it in a local department, it doesn't really get noticed and you kind of get squashed. To follow up that, a lot of times we hear a lot about the failed leadership in policing. So Did you have a leader or a mentor within your police department as you were growing through the ranks that you that you learned your style from and kind of developed from, or did you do a lot of your learning outside of the policing, or was it kind of a combination of both?
Yeah, it was a combination. You know, sometimes I don't like to say this, but I feel like I have to say it, is in our little police department, I learned a lot about leadership because of the way the department was, and it wasn't always great. It was, you know, at times it was just a different mentality. It was very tense, a lot of gossip, rumors, you know, and I remember that I was like, I'm a chief now. What am I going to say to these guys to kind of win them over, you know? But I was already part of the team. So, and it was gossip. That was the thing that used to just ruin a day, you know? It would just kind of change the dynamic of a day. You get into work and the first thing is like, hey, you're not going to believe this. You know, now I know to be like, hey, I don't want to hear it. It has nothing to do with me or this department. And, you know, I say that because it felt like 90% of the stuff was a neighboring department or not our problem at all. But, you know, we would listen to it and it would be like, oh, you know, it would just, you know, change, you know, your mood, you know? And so, yeah, I think I learned a lot from the military. I had some good leadership in the military. And I always think back to that. And I took it for granted, I think, when I was, you know, coming up through the ranks and thinking back, I was like, wow, that was a good leader. One of the things I've struggled with, you mentioned mentorship, is I feel like I'm winging it, you know, really. It's like, so, you know, I was, 6 years, I was 39 years old, you know, when I made chief. A lot of my neighboring chiefs were much older, had been in the position for a long time. Nobody was really calling up and saying, hey, congratulations, you made chief, you know, let's go grab coffee. In fact, nobody did. So I felt probably the most alone in this position, which I think has helped me with the guys, right? I was like, why do I need, hey, I think I developed a little bit of a bad attitude, because it's like, why do I need those other chiefs? I got my guys, I got us, we'll stay focused on what we're doing. And, you know, as they say, right, we all kind of work in silos. And now I'm just like, I want to break that. I don't want that anymore, right? We all need to kind of move in the same direction. This regional outreach worker is a good step in that direction, right? We can all start talking. And so it was, and that kind of goes back to, you know, what I was saying before. I was like, I'm going to hang it up. This isn't kind of, I didn't feel that camaraderie that I did, you know, when I was in the military. It was just very, very different. And now I'm feeling that we're starting to build that, because we're all kind of, you know, common goal. I don't want to hear gossip and rumors. It's not doing any good for our, you know, our mental health. And so at least the guys that I work with, they seem to get it, you know, or at least they're not doing it in front of
me. No, and that's great. And it kind of led into the next question that I want to touch base on. And you know, so I'm going to kind of alter it a little bit, but so I guess number one, what do you think was the biggest thing that influenced kind of the culture change that sounds like the department started to go through? Because you did mention how it was very gossipy and everything. And I've been in departments, I've been in a department like that. I know that can create a cancer within the department. So do you think it was the kind of the creation of and coming together with a common goal and a common project for everyone kind of coming together to work towards that kind of started to change that?
You know, no. And I think, you know, and I think probably I wanted to lead differently. I had a different, you know, objective. I had different goals for the department and how we treated people. And I think that how we treat people is ultimately going to kind of impact our, you know, us. And so I didn't want to be that same department. I'm trying to pick my words real carefully here, you know, but it needed to change. I felt like it needed to change. It, you know, coming to work can be fun as a police officer, right? We can all get along. So I just wanted to get away from what I felt and why, like I mentioned before, I actually left at the Elliott Police Department, came back with the thought of, I'm going back home to Western Massachusetts. I just need a paycheck. So I'm going to go back. because it was bad and people were, upset and they were, focusing on other things, and it was just incredibly negative. And what had happened there was, I had the opportunity to become a lieutenant. I started taking some leadership courses and I started to be a little bit more brave and bold and call out some of the BS that I was seeing all the time. I was like, it's time for me to be the change. It's time for me. Let me model this. Let me argue this. And I can probably getting a little passionate right now about this because it was big. It was like, that's it. I'm done. If I'm going to be here, then I'm going to do whatever I can to, improve it. And that's where it started. I think even before I became a chief.
That's awesome. So as you started to make that change and, put your foot down, as you said, start to call out some of the BS and you decided that you were going to start to be the change. Did you encounter any resistance from the men, from the patrolmen or the people that you were, kind of calling out?
Yeah, a little bit. Again, when I changed the core values and people saw empathy, they were like, what? What is this? What are we moving towards here? And as I explained that, it took some people left, I'm not sure why. People want to say, this department sucks, right? This is the stuff that you guys have probably heard it too, right? This place sucks, this place, whatever. And does it, because I was saying the same thing at one time. And it was, again, I'll say it again, until I started doing that self-reflection, I'm like, this is a building. I really control how I'm going to feel. And I'm going to control how what kind of attitude I'm going to have so that I can, make an impact on the others, and I was focused on that. I just really wanted it to be different, focus on family, focus on, we were kind of moving in that direction as best we could before we kind of knew officer wellness was an important thing,
I love it. I completely agree with what you said. And this is a building. It's a building. We control the atmosphere in there. Yeah. We control the culture. We control how other people feel. So I wasn't in a gigantic department, but I was in a department. We were about 45 when we were full staffed and everything. So that was something that I definitely struggled with, is because I would try and go with that attitude. And it was so easy to get sucked back into, and kind of using like the thermostat example. Like I'd try and come in and raise the thermostat, but you go into the building and it's set a lot lower and it just starts to creep you back down. So I heard someone mentioned something very interesting to me that I was speaking to the other day. So I thought it was a great question to ask you on the show here. And that's, when we're talking about patrolmen and we're talking about the leadership of agencies, oftentimes there's a lot of finger pointing. The patrolmen pointing up at the administration. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know what it's like to be they forgot where they came from. They don't understand us, all of that finger pointing, and the administration saying they don't understand what it's like to be up here. They don't understand what we're trying to do. It's almost like it's just no one understands where each other is coming from. What do you think needs to happen to kind of open up that communication and bring both sides together so that more and more agencies are understanding one another, leadership and the ranks, and coming together to actually go after a common goal?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I wonder, again, kind of changing my mindset. I always thought that being in a small department was probably more difficult than a larger department. But then I realized, wait a minute, we really have less personalities to manage. And it might actually be easier, to kind of, make change and get everybody on the same page. For me, I make very few of the decisions, if that makes sense. I always will, guys, tell me what we need, what we want. I have to take my cues from the guys, equipment, even schedule. We had one of our guys retired just a couple of weeks ago. And the schedule was a big thing. What's going to happen? There's going to be a lot of overtime. And I got that sense that everybody was waiting to see what's the chief going to do with the schedule? Where am I going to end up? That whole thing. And I think I said it 3 times. I was like, guys, I don't care if you come up with a fireman schedule. We need shifts covered, but by all means, don't let me don't treat me like I'm the smartest guy in the room, because we're in trouble, you know? So let's, you know, collectively come up with something, you know, or you guys, you know, have the ability to kind of create a schedule. Let's talk about it. Bring it to me. You know, I've got other stuff to do. I'd love, you know, for you guys to do this and make those decisions and just let me sign off on it. And I think that's it. You know, that's getting buy-in, you know, and I think it's effective. You know, these guys, you know, grown men, you know, they're capable of doing this. I am not special, you know, and so, you know, I guess I approach it that way is you guys make this place what you want it to be, you know, and I just kind of watch and make sure we're all kind of moving forward, staying positive.
That's great. And it's an awesome way to lead. And you know, I'm going to stress again before we wrap up here is that I love hearing from leaders and chiefs when they say, you know, I don't know everything. I'm a part of this. I'm helping to steer the ship, but we're all on it. We're all going in the same direction. We all want to go where we want to go together. Yeah. And you know, I really appreciate you coming on with us tonight, Chief. That was an awesome conversation. I can't wait for other police leaders and police officers to hear this and hopefully get some new ideas and things that they can start to put into place to really make their departments what they want it to be.
Yeah, well, yeah, thank you for having me. As we said before, I mean, it's great to be able to turn to a podcast where you can get, you know, some great advice, right? Like I mentioned, you know, mentorship wasn't easy to find at the beginning, but you can listen to some great people, you know, that you've had on and really just learn a lot. So it's, you know, kudos to the both of you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thanks. Right. You know, it's funny you said that. It reminded me of Chief Harvey. Remember we asked him about leadership and he started off his answer by telling us what he didn't know first. And I'm thinking the humility of a human who's quote unquote an expert, an executive, a chief who's telling us what they don't know to start off. I got the same thing from Chief Moya. So credit to you guys, because humility is the answer. It really is. Ego's the death of duty.
Yeah.
All right, Chief, we like to play a game here. It's 5 questions. I don't know if you watched any other episodes that we've done this recently, but it's a lot of fun. At least I think it is. The questions are designed to you. We want to know who Eliot Moya is. We know Chief Moya is now. Who is Eliot Moya? Who is the little boy, the grown man? Who is Eliot? We'd love to connect with you. So 5 questions. You ready to go?
All right.
All right. We know you like food. Favorite food and least favorite food?
Favorite food is, you know, originally a New Yorker, pizza. This is right there. I can eat it all day, every day. If it would be like the last thing. If it was the only thing I could eat pizza all day long.
Chief, I always used to laugh. You know, you could come in anytime you came into our police station when I was on the job. You could find a pizza of some sort sitting on the counter in the kitchen area. It didn't matter where it came from or how old it was, it would get eaten.
Yeah. Yeah,
that's disgusting, by the way. All right, you're a Mets fan. I'm a Phillies fan. So I love this question because I'm sure we both watch the same games, but from different perspectives. Your favorite sports moment? It could be as a kid, an adult. Your favorite professional sports moment, maybe watching or whatever, going to a game.
Sports moment?
Yeah, that you saw or witnessed.
Okay, So, Ryan, I'm sorry, but that's got to be the Bill Buckner ground ball. I mean, that was amazing. You know, I mean, I feel, you know, I felt bad for him sometime later, but man, what a turnaround. You know, just a gritty team that didn't give up.
You know what's crazy about that play? 100 times you hit him that ball, he's making it 99 times.
Yeah.
The one time he misses it is in the most critical spot of like the entire season. It's unbelievable. Yeah. All right. You're a dad. You have how many kids?
2 kids, 2 girls. Kids.
Awesome. Yeah, we know you're a girl dad. You're trading some emails back and forth about that. Your craziest moment, your craziest memory of being a dad. It could be crazy bad, crazy good, just something that's like, whoa, that's crazy.
I say this now, looking back, and just what's coming to my head, you know, right off the bat. So I have a 17-year-old and I have a 4-year-old, right? So, you know, the spectrum there, right? One going off to college soon. And, you know, one that's just kind of, you know, literally probably upstairs running around, you know, causing havoc. But the way that she is today with her energy and just her sass, my wife's going to kill me. But when my wife was in labor, she was like, "Hey, the baby's gonna come out." And the doctor was just like, "Yeah, all right, we'll be right there." She's washing her hands, right? And Becca, my wife, looks at me. She goes, "This, baby's coming out." Obviously, she said it more animated, more, and the doctor's just over there, and I'm like, all right. And I'm kind of like whatever too, because know that I'm gonna freak out. It wasn't but 2 seconds later, and that baby flew out of there like a jet. And I was like, "Oh my God, somebody's got to catch this kid." And and I was like, "Okay." And to the way that she came out, and now to see her, I'm like, you know what? It's absolutely her personality. It just makes sense.
Oh my God,
that's awesome. I love that.
That is amazing. So was it in your house? Did you have your daughter in your house?
No, it was in the hospital, but it was just the way that it was the way she flew out of there. She was like, "I'm ready, I'm out, let's do this."
All right, for everybody who doesn't know, Chief Moya was a DJ, formerly a DJ, did a lot of weddings, events. What is the most, two-part question, what is the most requested song that you ever had, looking back on?
Wow, good. That's another good question.
It's like Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Yeah, it really is. It's actually, it's one of those kind of like she's a brick house, stuff like that. It's kind of that the stuff that you play earlier in the party, right? Because that's when you get mom, dad, the grandparents out there. So it was a lot of those old kind of classics. The new stuff changes so much, so it was kind of like as the night went on. So that would always kind of change. But you always have those those gamey ones, right? Like the chicken dance, things like that. Yeah. The most request I probably got was "Don't Play That."
Okay.
that was one of the so.
I was always a sucker for a little Cupid shuffle. I don't know. I just always liked it. Yeah. All right, and then second part of that question is, you, Becca, the girls are hanging out. Maybe you got Siri or HomePod in the kitchen, Alexa, whatever you have. What song are you requesting first? Like right now, today, what's on your brain?
Man, it's probably going to be something Post Malone.
Oh, yes.
And my daughter, my 17-year-old, would make fun of me because I probably have played that on a loop. But I tell you, I don't know. I even went and saw him in concert. Just something about him speaks to me. But I'm also a Justin Bieber fan too. So if you can, but my age too, though, I like the the '90s grunge, right? Pearl Jam, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Love that stuff. The Super Bowl halftime show to me was like fantastic.
Oh yeah, unbelievable. Yeah.
All of us in this age range, that was a great show for us.
Yeah. Funny you brought up Justin Bieber. So everybody makes fun of me that knows me. My favorite band is the Backstreet Boys. I'm unabashed when I say this. When I was in Korea in '99, I was 7. I just turned 18. Never left Horsham, Pennsylvania, where I'm from. And I remember I'd get there on a Friday night. I was sharing a room with a Katusa, who was a Korean soldier who was home because he lived in the area. He was home for the weekend. So I've never left home except for boot camp. Sitting in this bunk half a world away, literally crying myself to sleep my first. I was so homesick, just regretting it. And I remember put on the radio. The roommate had a little radio and everything was in Korea. But this is right when Millennium dropped from the Backstreet Boys, May of '99. It was an unbelievable album. And they're playing I Want It That Way. So all these Korean songs then like, Backstreet Boy. And that was just the English I heard was reminded me of home so much. I fell in love with them. And now to this day, I've been to all their concerts.
Wow.
Yeah. I took my wife and then told everyone I'm here for my wife, but really she was here for me. Anyway, just want to share that story. Last question. You're a cigar fan. I'm a cigar fan. I love this question because cigars for me are very social, and I can tell they are for you too. So what is your favorite cigar you ever, the best one, and who were you with, and what were you doing?
Cigars for me are, I guess, I don't know. I don't want to say personal, but I love to just be with myself with a cigar. Now that's not to say I won't be at a cigar lounge somewhere. We've got a couple nice ones in the area here. But it really is kind of a moment for me to just think, and in fact, today my wife just says, you're buying a lot of cigars. She goes, and you haven't smoked one in a while. It's so cold up here, and so, I think, for me, I would say I smoke a cigar a week. Usually it's that moment where I'm like, you know what? I need a minute. I need a timeout. Life moves fast. So, I like to say it's kind of for me to, be kind of mindful, right? I mean, there's a lot to a cigar. There's so much to learn about it, where wrapper, the the binder, the filler, where it's from. Try to get those flavors. I don't know that I have a very good palate for that stuff, but yeah, I just and I always, even though I set out to have a cigar on my own, if I do go to the lounge, I always end up talking to someone, and it's always a great conversation, and just not about work, not about just some random different type of conversation that it's nice. It's something it's kind of a cool little hobby. Like I think I told you, not the healthiest, but not the worst either.
You're practicing mindfulness. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. You can have 5 minutes.
Yeah, got to make it my Zen moment.
Chief Eliot Moya, 5 questions. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief, and before we wrap up, I always like to ask #1 book recommendation that you have for people.
Well, you know what? I go back to say I've started doing a lot of reading now because, just because all these books are fantastic, right? Medlin's books. So I've been hitting these books pretty hard right now. What am I reading? I'm reading Taming the Serpent.
Ooh.
Yeah, which is right. I think it's neuroscience, and it's basically, and it's not heavy, right? I say neuroscience, but I think it's talks about using neuroscience to modernize police. And I'm not through it yet. I just started it, but I really like what I'm reading so far. So I've been enjoying it. But
Awesome.
like I said, I love it. I love, people out there sharing their stories, writing this stuff down is awesome.
And you get some great plugs in there for some of our prior guests, Scott Medlin's books and Chief Harvey's book as well. So,
yeah. Ernie's book too is super helpful. There's that last chapter there on EMTALA for CIT has been like a game changer. So yeah, really great stuff.
So where's the best place for our listeners to connect with you if they want to follow you and see what you're doing and see the different events that you're doing? Where's the best place for the listeners to connect?
Yeah, I mean, I always say LinkedIn, right? I feel like everybody's on there right now, kind of, with that common goal, right? Which is this, and I've just seemed to connect with so many people, and it starts with a message there, and I think it's been, that's probably the great place to start.
Awesome, Chief. On behalf of Chad and I, we can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your busy day to come on with us and share your knowledge and everything you're doing and your inspiration with our listeners. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. It's been an honor, and this is a lot of fun. So I appreciate you guys having me. Really
awesome, Chief.
You did not disappoint, Chief. Appreciate it.